The investigation began last October after a girl reported that Zinger had sent a video of her having sex with a boy to her classmates through Snapchat. Police say the boy told them Zinger appeared more mature than the age of 14 that she claimed to be.
Yeah, we are back with some more Law and Order. Hey, listen, shorty right here is off the hook. I remember being young, trying to pass my age as an older age so I could mess with the older girls. Never have I ever heard of this being reversed where someone is trying to act younger to deal with a younger crowd. Obviously, something is wrong with her psychologically. We about to find out right now. If you like reactions like this, consider hitting that like button. Definitely subscribe to my channel and also hit that notification bell. Let's go, baby.
Alyssa Zinger, a 23-year-old grocery store worker dancing on TikTok. She was already in legal trouble, accused of having sex with a junior high school student. Now she's facing more charges, and her parents could also be in trouble. We have the scoop. Alyssa Zinger is a 23-year-old grocery store worker who was accused of posing as a homeschooled 14-year-old girl so she could have sex with a boy who was between 12 and 15 years old. We first told you about Zinger last December when she was charged with 2 felony counts of lewd and 5 felony counts of.
There's nowhere in the world that a 14-year-old boy thought that she was 14 or at least 15 or 16. With them bags underneath her eyes, that's already given age right there. You understand? She's wild. She really need to go under the jail for real, man.
Now Zinger is in the Hillsborough County Jail in Tampa facing even more charges. She's now accused of having sex with 5 boys who are either 13 or 14. Now, this isn't a complete shock because Tampa's police chief had said last year he believed there were more victims out there, and he had called Zinger a predator. The investigation began last October after a girl reported that Zinger had sent a video of her having sex with a boy to her classmates through Snapchat. Police say the boy told them Zinger appeared more mature than the age of 14 that she claimed to be. And now Zinger's parents could also be in legal jeopardy after a detective hinted in court that they may have tried to hinder the investigation. More on that in just a minute. Joining me to discuss this case is somebody who knows a lot about defending people. He's Brian Claypool. He's a trial attorney. Brian, the facts in this case and the allegations are pretty stunning. Alyssa Zinger is actually accused of posing as a 14-year-old girl so she could teenage boys.
Yeah, that's just staggering. I mean, the thing that strikes me the most, too, putting aside, her obvious nefarious behavior, is how was she able to post a profile and pretend to be a 14-year-old? My point being, shouldn't we as a society be looking at these social media platforms like Snapchat? A lot of this was happening on Snapchat, Instagram, and all these other media portals. I mean, there has to be some kind of new law legislated where, for example, the age of anybody that jumps on something like Snapchat has to be verified.
You know why this is hilarious to me? I'm gonna tell you why this is hilarious to me, right? Right here, he's asking for consent, meaning like he wants parents to actually dig in the crates, go a little bit deeper. But how can you do that when we live in a world today where kids are allowed to change who they are without consent? It's like, come on now, which one is it? Which one do you guys want to have? You understand what I'm saying? Do you want them to be able to divorce their parents whenever they want? Or do you want their parents to be able to see what's going on? I'm confused. Y'all let me know in the comments. This is ridiculous.
That to me was one of the most staggering facts in this case.
Mm-hmm. We do have some really young kids on Snapchat. I mean, that is a good point. And TikTok. That's how she's accused of reaching out to these kids. And then she's also accused of sending a video of other kids, having to other kids. So she's accused of transmitting, essentially, that she captured. So there are several things going on here. But we do have kids as young as 12 accessing these apps.
That's a great point. I mean, I have a teenage daughter. I'm a single parent of a teenage daughter. And I have to tell you, the hair in my skin was rising when I found out she was on Snapchat a couple of years ago for the exact reason we're talking about. I pulled her aside and I said, you need to be careful because there could be people chatting with you in Snapchat who are not who they who they are pretending to be. They might be an older man who's trying to, get after you or to seduce you. And that's kind of scary as a parent, where you have to talk to your kids about, looking at things like, is this person real or not? Are they who they say? And that's why I think we really need to clamp down on verifying ages or of men and women who are over 18 who are having these kind of conversations with minors. That's just awful. And then look, another point I want to make is I do a lot of cases. I represent a lot of victims of, including minors and adult victims of. And I had a case a couple years ago. I represented 4 boys in the central part of California who were had relations with a teacher at a school. And if you can believe this, one of the school's big arguments in the case was, hey, these are guys.
My thing is this, right? My recollection growing up, I'd never seen anything like this. To be honest, the teachers were old as ancient, like they were dinosaurs. You understand what I'm saying? They weren't even attractive. But you see, as a man, you would say, wow, if a female hit on me, that's dope. But as a father, no, you're really gonna disagree as a father. As a father, you don't want your son to be tainted by an old lady or old woman or older woman. You understand what I mean? You just don't want that. You never know what could happen. So many things could go wrong with that, So I don't know what's going on in the water today. What's wrong with these women? What's happening in their household that they just want to start dealing with younger kids? But this is insane, yo.
These are young boys. So it's not as bad as a man doing it with a young girl. And I found that argument to be just really irresponsible, because as part of working these cases up, you get a psychological profile of the juveniles. In other words, you have them see what's called a forensic psychologist, and then you draw up a report to find out how they've been impacted. And I will tell you, young boys under 18 who are by women, it's not a fun game for them when they become adults. They have trust issues. It affects their ability to be in a stable relationship with women when they get older. They view women more they objectify women when they get older. So there's lifelong trauma that's associated with young boys being by a woman.
And I'm so glad you brought that up. We've discussed that many times on Crime Fix about how people say, oh, it's a boy, they ha ha ha. It's like locker room humor about how they probably liked it. It does create major issues. And these are crimes that she is accused of. And it doesn't matter that the gender of the person involved in this, the victim is, that it's a boy versus a girl. They're still a child. That's the point here. So Alyssa Zinger, her defense attorney in court, said this is somebody with some developmental issues. She's had anxiety issues over the years. So it wasn't like this is a 22-year-old woman communicating with a teenage boy or, a 12-year-old boy or a 13-year-old boy, a 14-year-old boy, because she's got these developmental issues. The state, on the other hand, says, I don't think so. There are no signs of that in her educational records. What do you have to say about that? Is that a defense attorney basically just trying to represent their client and say, hey, my client's not so bad, and she has some issues here, or is that a legitimate defense?
In this circumstance, if I'm representing Alyssa Zinger, I would make that argument, and here's why. And by the way, I'm not defending what she allegedly did, but if I'm representing her and I've got to give a zealous defense, I have seen, for example, her TikTok video. I'm not sure if you saw that. There's one of her dancing in a bathroom. It was filmed in a bathroom, and it looked, my visceral reaction was, this looks like a 13-year-old, not a 22-year-old. That's one example. So I did think, is there something mentally not right with her? And then there was another example where she and one of the boys that she allegedly had a relation with, I think he was 14 or 15, they were caught shoplifting at a Nordstrom store. Zinger's confronted by a police officer, and she lies to a cop and says, I'm here's my name, and I'm 14 years old. Here's my birth date, making her 14 years old. Like, the cops figured it out. That's not her. She's not, or that's her, but she's not 14. She's in her 20s. My point being, she is that psychotic that she's going to lie to a police officer and thinks she's not going to get caught. So I think
Wow.
there is some type of argument to make. She needs to undergo a mental health exam. And maybe what her lawyers will argue is a doctrine called diminished capacity, which it doesn't absolve her of the crimes, but it would lead to a lesser crime, because what that means is basically her mental capacity was impaired enough to destroy the intent to sexually these young boys.
I always say this, right? Hurt people like to hurt people. You understand? Don't let that go over your head. You can see someone obviously did this to her as well. And now she's carrying on the tradition. And them little boys gonna do the same thing because that's their trauma. You understand? This is how it starts. This is wild. I don't condone any of this right here. I'm telling you, as a father, you would not want your son to be her victim. Trust me, yo.
And she would get charged or convicted of a lesser crime.
She's being held without bail right now. And during a hearing this week about, her alleged crimes and things of that nature, it was brought up that her parents could possibly have some exposure here because they may have, according to a detective, and I think that we have to say may have because they have not been charged with a crime, may have tried to hide a cell phone belonging to her and may not have turned it over the proper cell phone when they came to the home, the detectives did with the search warrant. So we've got that aspect of this too. So do you expect the parents to be charged after the detective actually brings this up in court and footage of the police at her home with the parents, and as they're trying to serve a search warrant for the phone?
Well, you raise an interesting fact. If that happened, parents should minimally be charged with what's called accessory after the fact. What does that mean? It means that the parents were not involved directly in Alyssa Zinger carrying out these alleged assaults, but they helped her evade prosecution in this case. They helped her evade justice in this case by possibly hiding evidence. That's what accessory after the fact is. And if that happened, I hope they get charged, because that leads to another point I wanted to make, which is I'm not sure that we've heard the full story about the parents or other individuals who may have been enablers of Alyssa Zinger carrying this out. I have been involved I've represented hundreds of victims, and a couple of those cases have been with multiple victims happening multiple times. Why is that important? Because usually there's somebody on the inside, a family member, a friend, an associate, who is enabling this behavior.
Word.
And one of the boys that Zinger allegedly has, it happened 30 times. That means that investigators should be looking. For example, where did these take place? Where did this take place? Did it happen in somebody's apartment, somebody's house? For example, did that happen in a hotel room?
Yo, 30 times? You telling me 30 times with one of the victims? Somebody had to see this. Somebody turned a blind eye on it and say, you know what? I don't want anything to do with it. But that's foul right there. That is super duper foul. Who knows if the parents even seen them together? And they so just, oblivious to things. You understand? So naive. A lot of parents are naive. They just don't want to think that that's going on. But you know what? Sometimes you got to dig deeper. Don't just be a surface dweller. You got to go dig deep. You understand?
Should a hotel be responsible for seeing a grown woman walking into a hotel room with a young boy?
And
facts.
According to the police, it's all on tape, Brian. So this is a tough case. If you have her on tape, on these videos, having with these kids, and they are kids, and then she's sending a video of other kids, to other kids. I mean, this is a tough case to defend.
Yeah, no, you raise another interesting point. In California, where I'm at in the LA area, it's a felony to have an adult send even a picture to a minor, let alone a video of happening. That's a felony separate in and of itself. And if how many times she did it, maybe it's once, who knows, but those are separate individual charges that carry sentence, certain number of years in jail. So this is an extremely serious case for Alyssa Zinger. And the way I see it is her only, bona fide defense here is the mental health aspect. And by the way,
She's cuckoo.
that is going to be a difficult defense if, for example, she hasn't had any therapy before this, right?
A brain fried.
Because that's what we look at too, even with victims. When they come to us and they say, "Hey, when I was younger. Hey, have you ever seen a therapist?" If Zinger has never talked to anybody about this, about her mental, development, then that's going to hinder her defense. But that said, if she's got a good lawyer, they're going to have her set up with what's called a forensic psychologist, and they're going to do a detailed mental health exam of her. And I expect her lawyers to make the argument that she was mentally incapacitated and she's behaving like a teenager, not an adult, for a mental health reason.
Well, we will find out.
Yo, she is something else, I tell you. Let me know what's your thoughts in the comments. How would you react if you was one of the parents? What's your thoughts? Go in the comments, run it up, flood it up. If you made it to this part of the video, consider hitting that like button. Definitely subscribe to my channel and also hit the notification bell. Shorty got some serious brain issues. She's fried rice up there. You understand what I'm saying?